Why by Akunakun? A 37-minute long extreme demon. I have known this level for about like a year but recently I've been getting more and more of an interest in the level. And so when I was feeling that itch, I saw a video in my recommended. It was one of Lord Vadercraft's getting a new best on Slaughterhouse every day. And I thought to myself, I could maybe do that with Y of all levels. And so I started playing Y with a simple goal of just trying to get a new best every day. My original goal was to get to just 10% so that I could upload it to 10% on every extreme. But as I progressed further into the level, I kind of started to get this feeling that maybe I can actually go for it. And so this video will kind of summarize everything that's happened so far. I first started playing on March 24th. That was my first day, where I got 1%. Day 2, I got 2%. Shocker. This first cube is really interesting in that the way I learned this first cube is that I constantly alternate between counting the steps and looking at the percents. Most of the time I'm counting how much I jump and fall, but for certain percents such as 1.06, 1.15, 1.25, and then later on we have 1.88, 1.93, and 1.99. Those ones I use the percents because I just spend so long falling that it's better for me to just look at the percents, especially since they usually line up exactly to where when the percent changes I click. On the third day I got past the first cube and got to the ship in second cube. The ship is really easy to learn. It's just up, down, down, up, up, down, up, down, up. Entering day 4 and 5, both of these percents include the same cube, so I'm just going to mention them together. This cube is thankfully not too bad. It's very slow and you do often get breaks. And I learned one strategy I learned for this cube is that between each section of the cube you can start holding, so that way you can always click the first yellow orb. This is really important, especially for the second section where otherwise it's normally like blind. Day 6 was the first day that I was really terrified of because of the wave. Just by looking at videos, it seems completely random of where you're supposed to go. And so I thought it would be the hardest part to learn so far. But it surprisingly wasn't. I'll just say this now, of all the parts I learned so far before the first drop, the hardest one to learn was still the first cube maze. Anyways, this wave fortunately is not too bad because up until 5.33 I just used the percents as reference points, and then after that all of the wave clicks and releases conveniently happen after 2 or 4 black pillars. And then continuing into day 7, this is where I kind of started encountering the first roadblock. This cube on its own isn't that bad to learn, especially since you do happen to get long strings of jumps in a row. It's another slow part, and getting stuff like 10 jumps or 8 jumps in a row is really helpful, except for 6.60%. This percent sucks. I died to this jump a lot, and I didn't learn why until later. For some reason, this jump is a 2 frame on 60 FPS. You can't continue holding because you'll hit the first spike, but you also can't wait too long because then you'll hit the next blue pad, which you aren't supposed to hit. And the window between avoiding the first spike and avoiding the blue pad is ridiculously small. While every percent past 6% I only have 1 or 2 deaths at, 6% I have 7 deaths at. Day 8, the part with the dash orb and the pads aren't that bad. There are a couple of parts where I count, but for the most part, the pad that you have to hit is either a lone pad or the first or second after a lone pad, which made it easier to memorize because I didn't have to count as much. And then there's a small little section between that and the next wave. I used the percents as reference points. I found that 7.90 and 8.14 are the best. Day 9 I thought was going to be a major hurdle because this wave, just by looking at a video, just like the first wave, this wave seems pretty random where you're supposed to go, except you're not given the luxury of having only 1 block of space. So you have use the entire screen. But after going through it, this wave also isn't that bad. If you look closely at the wave, every time you're supposed to click and release, I can tune out everything else and focus specifically on the path I'm supposed to go. Also, I have some dumb memorization for this wave, like Big M and Big V. Don't ask why. And okay, before moving on, there is one little caveat with this wave. It is completely possible to cheese it by just holding. I decided to not do that. I had it in the back of my head as an idea in case like I really need to continue getting a new best every day. And that enters us into day 10, which was my original goal of getting to 10% for 10% on every extreme. However, I mentioned this earlier. By this point, I was already thinking about doing more than that. I had all the parts up to the first drop learned, so that way I wouldn't have to waste too much time learning parts. Learning individual percents isn't that bad. It usually takes like a few minutes, up to like maybe like 15 to do. But that becomes a problem if I struggle a lot from 0, which up till this point hasn't happened yet, up to day 10. But
foreshadowing as a narrative.
Anyways, yeah, the cube after the second wave is really easy, very, very slow, and you get 10 blue orbs in a row. Yeah, day 10 wasn't that bad. Day 11 was a day that was kind of hard to learn, specifically because these pink orbs are much quicker. The timings themselves aren't that bad, it's just the pink orbs are a lot closer together, and so the memorization string I have in my head is a lot longer. For day 12, getting to 12%, this ball is similar to the wave, but it's not as lenient. I try to use pillars as reference point again, the light pillars. However, unlike the wave, this time they don't perfectly line up with the ball. Not only do I have to memorize what pillars to click on, but also where on the pillars I have to do. A lot of them I can click directly on top, but some of them I have to click earlier or later. And that brings us to day 13. This day was rough. I mentioned so far I hadn't gotten unlucky from 0 yet, and this day is a day that kind of messed up this challenge that I was doing. You see, the cube itself is not that bad. It's more just simple. It's just more jump no jump that's kind of slow. The problem was going from 0. Going from 0, I never had more than like 2 or 3 deaths past 5%, but I would not be given that same luxury this day because I got 6% died to the 2 frame, then I got 12% funnily enough at the cube because I blinked out on the memory, and then I got 6% again, same jump, and then I got 11%, then I got 6% again, then I got 5% dying to that wave, which I've never died to before, and then getting to 13. Because of the length of the level, this was like an hour and a half, and I decided to do it later at night, and so it got pretty close to the end of the day, which started to stress me out a lot, and so I kind of had doubts of how the future of this challenge would go. I decided to try one more time for day 14, and I ended up doing first attempt from 0. I got really lucky on day 14. The rest of the memory up until the drop is not that bad. However, I was playing today for day 15, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized that if I want to continue playing this level, then this probably isn't the best way of going about it. The thing about trying to get a new best every day on this level specifically is that while it is great for building up muscle memory for the beginning, it kind of locks me out of learning any more of the level, because anytime I try to touch another part of the level, I instantly have to start going back to the beginning, and so the muscle memory for the other parts can't really build. And so I'm just thinking, if I want to continue playing this level, I don't want to force myself to play from 0 every day. And so I'm declaring day 15 the end of the new best challenge. With that being said, I'm not done with the level yet. It's just I don't want to specifically force myself to play from 0, and I want to try to actually learn more of the level. The current plan now is to I want to try to learn a new part every day, and if that's not possible, then just try to learn 2 or 3% of the level a day. This level uses 2.1%, and because I'm getting close to the drop, that means that at 3 times speed and 4 times speed, the percent you get through a percent every like 20-ish seconds instead of every 40-ish seconds. And so here's also some stats for the level. And in case you're wondering what the colors means for the part learned, green means that I'm fully comfortable with them. I can, as long as I focus, I can do the memory part pretty much every single time. Yellow means I can do the part sometimes. It's just sometimes I blank on the memory. And then orange means like I pretty much just learned the part. I still need to build the muscle memory for it. And so yeah, that is the first progress report for Y. I don't know how often I'm going to do these progress reports. I'll probably do these every couple or few weeks when I feel comfortable with the progress I've made. And I'll still post some like miscellaneous progress on the Jackal Cash's Attic channel. And so yeah, that's all I have to say. And on one last note, I guess you can say I'm trying to verify it, I guess.